A mother wheels her daughter into a hospital room for the 100th time. The girl is 23 years old. She has never been sick a day in her life. This is the Reckoning Files. In 2005, after Hurricane Katrina, Claudine Dee Dee Blanchard told the world she and her young daughter had lost everything, including Gypsy Rose's medical records, in the flooding. The family relocated from Louisiana to Aurora, Missouri, and started over with a story that would define the next decade of their lives. Dee Dee said Gypsy Rose was gravely ill. Leukemia, muscular dystrophy, seizures, asthma, impaired hearing and vision. She said her daughter needed a wheelchair, a feeding tube, and a rotating shelf of medications just to get through the day. The people around them responded the way people do when a child appears to be suffering. Habitat for Humanity built the Blanchards a custom, wheelchair-accessible house. Charities sent them on a trip to Disney World through the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Local churches and civic groups rallied around them, donating money, meals, and time. Dee Dee was held up as a devoted single mother doing the impossible. And Gypsy Rose grew up as the face of that story, photographed bald-headed at fundraisers, pushed through medical appointments, presented to the world as a fragile child who needed saving. At least one doctor privately suspected something was wrong. When Gypsy Rose was 14, a neurologist came to believe she was looking at a case of medical child abuse, but never reported it. Dee Dee controlled every appointment, every record, every conversation her daughter had with the outside world. To the community, she wasn't just a caretaker. She was a hero. Here's what almost no one in Aurora, Missouri knew. Gypsy Rose was never actually sick. Not once. What Dee Dee Blanchard did to her daughter has since been described by medical and legal professionals as Munchausen syndrome by proxy, now more formally known as factitious disorder imposed on another. In broad terms, it describes a caregiver who fabricates or induces illness in someone under their care, typically a child, in order to receive attention, sympathy, and control. It is classified as a form of medical child abuse. In Gypsy Rose's case, that meant a childhood of procedures she didn't need. Doctors removed her salivary glands. Her teeth were pulled after years of medication left them damaged. She was fed through a tube, moved through the world in a wheelchair, and told by her own mother that she was dying by inches, none of it true. It took Gypsy Rose years to piece together that her body worked fine, that the diagnoses, the surgeries, and the medications had never been necessary at all. Dee Dee also controlled the most basic fact of her daughter's identity, her age. She is believed to have forged a birth certificate listing Gypsy Rose's birth year as 1995 instead of 1991, so that even as Gypsy Rose grew into an adult, doctors and caseworkers believed she was still a teenager. In 2011, Gypsy Rose tried to leave with a man she'd met at a science fiction convention. Dee Dee found out and threatened to report the attempt to police, using the false paperwork as leverage to keep her daughter from leaving again. By her late teens and into her 20s, she had begun to question the story she'd been raised inside. Around 2012, she connected online with a man named Nicholas Godejohn. Their relationship developed largely in secret, over messaging apps and phone calls Dee Dee didn't know about. And it became the place where Gypsy Rose first said out loud that she wanted her mother gone. In June 2015, that plan became real. Godejohn traveled from Wisconsin to the Blanchard home in Springfield, Missouri, while Gypsy Rose let him in. Dee Dee Blanchard was stabbed to death in her bedroom. Gypsy Rose has said she left the room during the killing itself. What is not in dispute, and what she would later admit to in court, is that she planned it and wanted it to happen. The two of them didn't run. Instead, they left a trail. And it started with a single Facebook post from Dee Dee's own account. On June 14, 2015, a message appeared on Dee Dee Blanchard's Facebook page. A taunting line announcing that she was dead. Friends and family who saw it assumed the account had been hacked, or worse. Concerned, they called Springfield police to check on her. Officers arrived at the Blanchard home and found Dee Dee's body in her bedroom. She had been stabbed multiple times. Gypsy Rose was nowhere to be found, and investigators quickly determined that the Facebook post hadn't come from a stranger covering their tracks. It had come from inside the case itself. Digital investigators traced the login behind the post to an IP address in Big Bend, Wisconsin, Nicholas Godejohn's home state. Within a day of the murder being discovered, police located Gypsy Rose and Godejohn there together. Both were taken into custody on June 15, 2015. As the case developed, investigators pieced together a private world that had existed entirely outside Dee Dee's control. Months of messages between Gypsy Rose and Godejohn, in which they discussed her mother's abuse, her desire to escape it, and increasingly specific plans for how Dee Dee might be killed. In police interviews, Gypsy Rose acknowledged her role in planning the murder, telling investigators about the abuse she said had driven her to it. For the first time, the outside world was seeing evidence of the life Gypsy Rose had been hiding, and starting to understand why. Both were extradited back to Missouri and formally charged with first-degree murder. Gypsy Rose's arrest, and the revelation that her illnesses had been fabricated for years, turned the case into national news almost overnight. Neighbors and former donors who had raised money for her care learned along with everyone else that the child they'd believed they were helping had never been sick at all. The two defendants faced very different paths through the justice system. Nicholas Godejohn maintained his innocence and went to trial. His defense argued that his autism spectrum diagnosis affected his ability to understand or resist Gypsy Rose's influence. Prosecutors countered with messages they said showed clear premeditation. In November 2018, a Greene County, Missouri jury convicted him of first-degree murder and armed criminal action. In February 2019, a judge sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole, plus 25 years on the armed criminal action count to run alongside the life sentence. Gypsy Rose took a different route. In 2016, she pleaded guilty to second-degree murder as part of a plea agreement and was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Prosecutors and her own defense pointed to the same underlying fact. She had endured years of documented medical child abuse at her mother's hands, and that history shaped the sentence she received. But a plea of guilty is exactly that. An acknowledgement, on the record, that she was criminally responsible for orchestrating her mother's death. Both outcomes rest on the same set of facts. One person was convicted at trial and will die in prison. The other admitted her role in court and served a fixed term. the law drew a clear line between the man who held the knife and the daughter who orchestrated the killing while enduring years of the abuse that preceded it. And that line is the most legally and morally complicated part of this entire case. Gypsy Rose Blanchard was released on parole on December 28, 2023, after serving roughly 8 years of her 10-year sentence. Her release drew national attention, and she stepped into public life almost immediately, giving interviews, publishing a memoir, and building a large social media following, while speaking openly about the abuse she survived and the crime she committed. Her personal life since has been public too. A marriage she'd entered while still incarcerated ended in divorce within a year of her release, and she went on to rebuild a relationship with her former partner, Ken Urker. In December 2024, the two welcomed a daughter. In June 2025, Gypsy Rose completed her parole entirely, marking the formal end of her sentence. In public statements since, she has described the experience as a period of accountability and has continued to speak about both her mother's abuse and her own responsibility for what happened in that Springfield bedroom in June 2015. Her father, Rod Blanchard, divorced from Dee Dee since Gypsy Rose's early childhood, has remained part of her life. He has said publicly that he doesn't feel he can judge his daughter for what she did, and that he carries his own guilt for not seeing the abuse sooner. Nicholas Godejohn remains in prison, serving a life sentence with no possibility of release. This case doesn't resolve into a clean story of a villain and a victim. It's both in the same person at the same time. And that's exactly why it's still being talked about a decade later. If you want the next case file, subscribe. New files drop Monday and Thursday.